Microsoft Word has many different ways for you to lay content out within the document itself. One of the methods that we have is to create tables. And you can use tables for all sorts of different scenarios. In the example that I have open in front of you, I've got the exercise file that comes with this lecture. It's called number 12, Working with Tables. I've created a simple inventory list or an order list. It's got a few columns in here: product, quantity, price, and a total column, a few records, and some other information that I generated using calculations inside of a Word table. But this is just one use of using tables inside of Word. I just got a list of records that I want to organize and keep consistent in the look and feel of the organization of that data. Again, we could put just plain old text values in there. You could put images inside the table. You could put links in there. There could be all sorts of different types of lists that you want. But it's really just columns and rows of data. That's a table. And they're really simple to create. This example that I have open in front of you, we're going to recreate this over the next couple of lectures here. So let's start out first by just creating a table. So I've got a section down below for try it below. Okay? So I'm going to scroll here just a little bit. I'll keep that table on the screen there. That's going to be our example. And I'm going to drop down below, and if we look at this table here, it's got 1, 2, 3, 4 columns, and it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. You'll notice that fifth row isn't a complete row. It is, but it isn't. It's just formatted a little bit differently than the rest of the rows. So 4 columns, 5 rows. Okay, how do we create that table? Really simple. And first, I'm going to make sure my cursor is right below that try it below, because that's where I want to generate this table. I'm going to go up to Insert, top of my screen, and you'll see an option for Table. So I'm going to go into Table, and they give you this big interactive method to be able to create rows and columns within your Microsoft Word table. And you'll notice over there in the background that it's generating the table. See, I want one that is 4 columns wide, so it's four columns there, and it's got 5 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Once I've established how many columns and rows I want, I'll click once, and I've now generated that table. Really simple. Insert Table, and you tell it how many rows and columns you want within that table. Once you've chosen it, click Done. You've created a new table. Now that I've got the table generated, columns and rows, I can start inserting some content into those columns and rows, or the cells of the table. Each of these little rectangles represent a cell. If you work with Microsoft Excel, it's very similar. Columns, rows, individual cells that make up those columns and rows. So again, I'm just going to mimic the table up above. So I'll just drop into the first cell there. I'm going to type in product. There we have it. Now I want to move over to the next column, first row, hit my tab key, and that'll drop me over there. Here's quantity, tab again. Here's price, tab again. Here's total. All right, now if I hit tab once again, this is going to take me down to the next row, and I can start to insert my records here. So I'll have oranges, tab. Let's say we sold 10 oranges at $1.25 a piece. Now this next one here, this total, that's going to be a calculation. I'm going to have Word multiply the quantity and the price together to be able to give us a total for that product or for that order. So let's ignore that for right now. We'll just drop down to the next row right below oranges, and we got grapes, tab, 12, 235. Now I'm going to use my arrow keys on my keyboard. I can just use my up, down, left, right arrows to be able to navigate the table as well. And I'll have bananas. We sold 24 at $1.10, and so on. So you create your table. You go up to Insert Table. You tell it how many rows, how many columns you want that table to have. And then it's just up to you to start entering data. You can type in your data, hit your tab key to move to the next column, tab, tab, tab. Once you're done with the column or a row, you can tab again and take you back down to the next row within the table. You can use your arrow keys up, down. You can use your mouse, however you do it. Okay? But get this table created. Insert Table, 4 columns wide, 4 rows in height. Insert the products, the quantities, and the prices here. Don't worry about the totals just yet, or the total quantity or average price. So just ignore this stuff for right now. We're going to talk all about that here in a little bit. And we're also going to talk about formatting the table, trying to make it look more presentable, not just black and white lines all over the place. So when you initially create a table, you'll recall we go to the Insert tab, we go to Table, and we choose how many rows and how many columns we want in that table. Once you make a selection, you've generated that table. 4 columns, 5 rows, done. Now what if you want to add additional columns, or even remove columns, or add additional rows, or delete rows? How do we do that? Let's take a look. So I've got my little Try It Below table here. And let's say I want to add some additional products, some more orders that have taken place. Now I could use this empty row here, but that eventually is going to be a few calculations. Well, no big deal. I can go to the bananas row. I'll just click into that row, doesn't matter where. Now up above, you got a new set of tabs. You got Table Tools with the Design and a Layout tab. Now you got all sorts of goodies up here, loads of material and features. Underneath Design, you're going to find a bunch of formatting stuff. We'll talk about formatting a little bit later on. Underneath Layout, you're going to find ways to manipulate the table structure or layout. So towards the left, you'll find a delete command. You'll also find options for inserting rows and columns and so on. So I want to insert an additional row and I want to add it below bananas. So I can go up to Layout. Make sure again your cursor's inside of the table. I clicked right inside of bananas. I'm going to go up to the Layout tab. I'm going to go to Insert Below. And I've now added an additional row to this table. So what do we got? We got oranges, grapes, bananas. Let's do apples. We sold 33 at a little more expensive, $2.25. All right. So again, you place your cursor into the table, kind of picking where you want to be able to add or potentially delete columns and rows. You're going to go up to Layout, and you've got your insert above, below. You can insert columns to the left or to the right. You got all your features right there, as well as deleting. Let's say, okay, I'm going to add another row. I'm going to add this one above. So now I got one between bananas and apples, and I decide later on that, oh, you know what? I don't want that row. Let's get rid of it. Totally unnecessary. So I can place my cursor in there, back up to Layout, get into Delete, and I'm going to delete the row. And that row's now gone. You can highlight multiple rows or even multiple columns. If I move my cursor to the far left of the table, see how I get that little kind of right pointing arrow? I can left click and drag, highlight multiple rows, and I can go to Delete, and I can delete all those rows. Same with columns. I can go to my columns, and here I'm going to get a little black arrow. Got to be right in the right spot. I'll left click and drag, and I can highlight multiple columns there, and I can go up and delete multiple columns as well. Whatever you need to do. But inserting rows, really simple. Just place your cursor, back to Layout, insert above and below. You can insert columns left and right, and you got your delete command right there. I want to further manipulate this table that we've created by talking about how you can change the column widths or the row heights. And this is another really simple feature, really effective, just to give your table a little more style, maybe a little more breathing room inside the cells, make it a little bit easier to read, or just, hey, I don't have much space, let's squish this table a little bit, or I got loads of space, let's widen it out a little. So I can go into a table, let's do column widths first. All I need to do is find the dividing line between two columns. You'll notice when I move my mouse right over the top of that, I get kind of this double-headed arrow looking symbol. I'm going to left click, hold down, and just drag. And that will allow me to change the widths of my columns. You can do the same thing over here. I want to shrink that one up. Maybe I just want to shrink the entire table. Let's get that all the way down. Totals aren't going to be that big, so I can grab this furthest left one and I can pull that one in as well. And shrinking the table down, don't need it as wide. Now, I can also change the row heights. Maybe I want to make my product, quantity, price, and total row, those headers, I want to make them much higher. Right now they're pretty consistent. They're the headers. They should stand out a little bit, so I want to make that a little bit larger so that later on when I format it, I can make the text larger, center align those, do whatever I need to with it. But I'll grab the dividing row line, and I'm just going to drag that. And that'll allow me to change the height of the row. So change the column widths by grabbing the dividing line between the columns. Just left click and drag. Grab the dividing line between the rows, and you can increase the row height. So once again, make sure you're getting practice with this. All these concepts of the tables, there's a lot going on in there and a lot of little moving pieces. Try them all out. Adjust your columns, adjust your rows. Try to get it to look something like what I got on the screen here. Shrink it down. We don't need all that space. Make it a bit smaller. Decrease the width of those columns. Increase the height of the first row inside this table, because we're going to format that later on. We're going to make it look really good. The more accessible you can make your data inside of Excel and the more intuitive to reading that data, the better off you're going to be. People can find exactly what they're looking for and identify what they need. Inside of this table, it's pretty straightforward. We got column headers, product, quantity, price, and a total. But I want to add an additional header above this table that says something like order details, order information. I want to put a nice big header that encompasses the entire table. So we're going to insert an additional row here, and we're going to discuss a feature called merge cells so that we can get this header to encompass the entire table. So first step, I want to place the new row above my current headers. So first I'm going to make sure that my cell, or that my cursor is inside the first cell there. I'm then going to go up to layout, and I'm going to insert above. All right, I got a new row there. Now I'm going to put a title up there. I'm going to say this is order details, or order information, or whatever you want to call this. But right now that row is broken up into the 4 columns. I want order details to span across that complete row. I really don't want 4 separate cells, 4 separate columns. I just want one big one. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to move my cursor just to the left of the table. See how I get that little right pointed arrow? I'm going to left click once. That'll select the entire row. Then I'm going to go back up to layout, and there's a feature called merge cells. Now, if merge cells is grayed out on you, it means you only got one cell selected. Make sure you get the entire row. So remember, I went to the left-hand side, click once, and it grabbed the entire row. Layout, merge cells, and it takes that 4 separate columns, 4 separate cells, and merges it all into one. Now I've got that title, and eventually we're going to format it, center align it, increase the font size, whatever we want to do with it. But we've got one cell right there just for the title. Now you can also do the reverse effect. If you want to take a single cell and split it into multiple cells, back to layout, right below merge cells, you got split cells. And that will allow you to break this cell up into multiple cells, perhaps back to 4 columns again. So you got the merge cells, bring them all down into one, or split. Try them out. Get a feel for working with it. Add that new row. Give it a title. And then merge those 4 columns together to make one. And then in a later video, we'll talk all about formatting and get this thing to look great. So we've started building our table. We've got columns and rows in there, and we've got a little bit of data. In this case, we've got some order information, various products, quantities, and prices. Now, I want to perform some calculations within this table. Now, if you're familiar with Microsoft Excel, that's what Excel is all about. Inserting data and then performing some type of calculation on that data. And Excel is full of all sorts of calculations. Sum, average, min, max, VLOOKUPs. You got loads of functions you can use inside of Excel. Here inside of Word, within a Word table, you've got some of those calculations. Not nearly as many as Excel, but you got the common ones. Sum, min, max, product, average. You've got a few in there you can use. I just mentioned a couple. You got a few more than that as well. But again, not nearly as robust as using Excel to do calculations. But let's take a look at here how we can do things like sum a column of cells, or multiply a few cells together, or average some cells. Let's try the summing first. I'm going to go down to this bottom cell right below my quantities. With my cursor inside that cell, I'm going to go up to my Layout tab. I'm going to go over to the far right corner where I got Formula. This is inside the Data section of the Layout tab. So I'll go to Formula. Now, this opens up my Formula window where it already defaulted a formula. It's saying equals sum, and what's it want to sum? It wants to sum above, meaning from this cell, go above, find the numbers, and sum that up. So really, Word's already done the work for me. I can just hit OK, and I've now summed it up. 10 plus 12 plus 24 plus 33 is 79. And I can even put my own text in there. I'll just call this a total quantity. There we go. And maybe I'll highlight it and I'll make it bold. We'll make it stand out a little bit. Control B. Remember, Control B is your shortcut key for bold. Now, how about price? I don't want to get a total here. I want to do an average. I want to get an average price for all these products that we sold. Well, same idea. I'll place my cursor down there. Back to Layout. Back over to Formula. Now, once again, it defaults. You're going to find that Word does a lot of defaults for you. And in this case, it always wants to sum, and it's looking for numbers around it. It's trying to determine where those numbers are at and what would best fit within a calculation here. So it defaults to above. Okay, well, I don't want to sum. I want an average. So I'm just actually going to type in average here. What do I want to average? I want to average the above cells. So I'll hit OK. And there's my average. The average of all these values here is roughly 1.74. And I'll call this average price. We'll increase that column just a little bit. There we go. And I'll format it. Control B, make that a little bit wider. There we have it. So I've got my total, my sum, and I got my average for price. Again, just place your cursor in the cell, go up to Formula, create your formula if needed. Again, you're going to find that Word does some of the defaults for you. Now, let's get a little bit trickier with this. I'm going to go to the rows, and I want to multiply for each of these products. I want to multiply the quantity with the price, so I can get a total price for that quantity at this price. So this one's going to be a little bit different. Again, still placing my cursor in there. Back to Layout, into Formula. Now, again, it wants the defaults. It did a sum to the left. Now, if you look closely back at my original table, I just left it at the defaults. I just did sum left, sum left. I wasn't even watching. I just kind of I got it all done. So 11.25 is not 10 times 1.25. Okay? That's 10 plus 1.25. So default sum. Watch that. Make sure that Word just isn't doing the work for you. That if you need to, you can modify it. So I'm going to modify it. I'm going to delete out what they gave me. And I'm going to come down here to paste function, where you're going to find all the different functions that are built into Microsoft Word. So I'm going to find the one called product. So here's product. They give me product, open, close parentheses. They didn't say to the left or above or wherever, but I need to tell it what I want to get the product of, or what do I want to multiply. Now this is where it gets a little bit tricky. With the sum and the average, it was just, hey, sum above, average above. Okay? Or with the original here, it was sum to the left. So just based on where you're at, we're going to go to the left, or we're going to go above, or whichever direction. Okay? Well, that's not true here. I'm not going to say product to the left, but I need to tell it which cells, literally which cells I want to multiply. Microsoft Word tables, again, they're broken up into columns, right? We got, 4 columns in here, including the total, and we got rows. We got all these rows in there, but broken up into these cells. So inside of Word, we've got column A, we got column B, we got column C, and we got column D. And then over here, we got row 1, we got row 2, we got row 3, and so on. So this right here, this 10 would be inside of B3. This 1.25 would be inside of C3. So here, when I do the product, I'm going to say take B3, which is column A, B, row 3, which is the 10, comma, C3. So I want to multiply B3 and C3. If I hit OK, I multiply the two of them together, and I've got my 12.5. 10 times 1.25 equals 12.15. And this is all using a formula, but in this case, using the product function and identifying which cells you want to multiply. Let's try that again. I'm going to drop down to the next row, back to layout, formula. So once again, I don't want the defaults. I'm going to say equals product. Let's make sure I spell that right. You can always use the little paste function window. Open up a parentheses. Now this time, it's still column B and C, but now it's row 4. So I'm going to say B4, comma, C4. I'll hit OK. So 12 times 2.35 equals 28.2. That's the product function. There's a number of other ones in there. Again, formula. You can jump into there. You can go into paste function. You can find all the different functions that are available to you right here. I'm going to cancel that out. Try filling out the next two. Do bananas and apples. Get this all complete. Get all your calculations in there. If you haven't done the summing and the averaging yet, get those in there as well. But creating calculations, again, not quite as robust as Excel. You could always create it inside of Excel and copy paste into Word if that's what you need. Maybe it's even already created inside of Excel. So we've got the table built. Got columns and rows, got some data in there, got a few calculations within there. Now let's do some formatting within the table. Change colors, add borders, remove borders, whatever we want to do with it. Just spice it up a little bit. Format the table. Take a look. I'm just going to kind of mimic the table that I have up above, maybe add a few more things to it. But first off, let's do something with these headers. So what I like to do is I'm going to select all these headers. I'm just going to click and drag over the top of them. Once I got that highlighted, I can go up to my Design tab. I can do some formatting on here, or I can go to my Home tab and use the traditional formatting commands here. Either method works. The Design tab is more about the table design, so like background color, borders, that type of stuff. If you're looking for more the formatting of the font, then I would rely on the Home tab to do that. So I want to change the font. I want to make it bold. I'm going to bump up the size, maybe go to 12. Let's change I'm going to change the color. I'm going to make it white. It's like, wait a minute, why are you going to make it white? Can't see it now. But I'm now going to go over to the paragraph, and I'm going to do the fill bucket there. I'm going to make it blue. There we go. Now, I can also change the alignment. And this one, you could do it on the Design tab with Table Tools, or you can do it underneath the Paragraph section. Either way, I'm going to center align them. Now, something that you can't do with the alignment on the Home tab, you're going to have to go to the Design tab. I just center aligned them, but this center aligned them horizontally. I also want to do it vertically because I changed the height of that row. So I go to my Design tab. On the Design tab, I've got, not Design, the Layout tab. I'm going to have some alignment options here. So you can see that it already got center aligned, but again, that's horizontally. I'm going to go vertically, the one right there in the middle. This is align center. And now I've got it both horizontal center alignment and vertical center alignment. Now let's do the same thing with my header up above. I'm going to grab that text, and I'm just going to repeat some of the same stuff. We'll change the color, we'll change the background, we'll bump up. I'm going to make it quite a bit bigger here. And I'll go change the alignments. Layout, I'll do the center alignment as well vertically. Maybe I'll increase the height of that one. Get that nice big header up there. You know what? I'm thinking I'm going to use the Design tab for the shading, the background. Let's do a different shade of blue. Maybe go darker on that one. Just get it to pop a little bit more, stand out from these headers. Again, this is all formatting, trying to make it look better, more presentable, but it's preference. You decide what looks good, what's going to make it readable, because ultimately that's what you want. Ultimate readability so that your audience can get in here and identify with the data right away and not be disgusted by it. So, don't get too wacky with it, but let's do a little bit more here. Let's see, I got my calculations there. I'll just highlight those. I'm going to make them bold. Control B or hit the bold. I never finished my other calculations. I need to do that. We can keep going here, changing colors. You know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to highlight the grapes row. Just click off to the left. And I'm going to hold down my control key. I'll select the apples row. What I want to do is alternate colors. So again, I grab the grapes row, hold down my control key, grab the apples, and I'm going to go change the shading from the design tab. I'll just make it a nice light gray. I just think that makes it look so much more presentable, just easier to read, alternating the row colors inside there. Maybe you want to change the color of your calculations. You know, do what you like there. Again, trying to make it a little more presentable. I'm also going to center the table. I'm going to put it in the center of the page. I'm going to select, see this little arrow, kind of double or triple, quadruple, four-headed arrow up there. I'll give that a click. That selects my entire table. Then I can go back to my Home tab, and I can center align that table. Put it right in the middle of that page. And trying to make it more presentable, a little more accessible for my audience. But try some of this stuff out. Again, you can highlight text. You can go up to your Home tab where you can do some formatting with your font. You can change some of the alignment here. You can go to your Layout tab where you can change the vertical alignment as well. And on the Design tab, you got your shading where you can get in and change the background. I did that through there, but I also did it on the Home tab, the little paint bucket underneath the paragraph section. But get a little bit of formatting here. Spice up this table, make it look more presentable. And then we're going to take it one step further, but let's reserve that for the next video. Get this done first. You know, get something that looks roughly like my table, or just go nuts with it and format it to your heart's content. So we've done some formatting on this table. We've added background colors, changed the font, increased font size, done a few things, made a couple things bold, done a little bit of formatting. I want to take it a step further. Within a table, you also have the borders of each of the cells, the columns and rows that you have within your table. You can manipulate these borders. By default, you get these nice thin black lines that are separating all the cells within the rows and columns. You can change the thickness of those lines, you can change the colors, the styles, you can even get rid of them completely. So let's take a look at formatting these borders. I'm going to do the two bottom corners first. I want to get rid of the borders, the bottom and the left and right borders, respectively, on the left and right side. Just make those cells appear like they're not even there. And then maybe I want to take this one up here, this top cell, and I want to make this line right there, I want to make it much thicker. Okay, so we'll do a couple of things here. So first step, this is the cell that I want to remove the left and the bottom border of. Now, we want to make sure that before I modify the border on that you select the cell itself. And you notice how I got that little black arrow right there. I click once, it selects that cell. If all you do is click into that cell and you go modify the table's borders, it won't just apply to that cell, but it'll apply to the whole table. So I want to make sure I get that little black arrow, click, make sure I get just that one cell. Now by getting that one cell, I get my little formatting box that shows up. And I'm going to go to the border command, go a little arrow, and I'm going to go down to borders and shading. So this opens up my borders and shading window where you got all sorts of stuff. You've got the styles. You can change what they look like. You can change the color, their width, their thickness. And you got a little preview of the window as well. Now in my case, I don't want to change it. I want to delete it. I want to get rid of the border. So over here in the preview, I'm going to click on the left border, zap, we'll get rid of that. I'm going to click on the bottom border, once again, zap, that one's gone. I've now gotten rid of the left and bottom border of that cell. I'll hit OK. And that cell now appears to not even be there, just because I removed those borders. Now let's do it over here. I'm going to do it on the right side. So once again, I'm going to find that little arrow. Then I'm going to go back into borders, borders and shading. And once again, I'm going to zap. This time I'm going to do the right and the bottom, and I'll hit OK. And once again, removing the borders, the cell is still there. I can actually still type inside of it, but it appears not to be there. Pretty nice. All right, let's try one more. I'm going to go up here to this top cell. Again, I'm going to make sure I get just that one cell selected. Get that arrow there. Go into the borders, borders and shading. Now this time, I want to change the thickness. I'm going to go really thick. I'm going to go 6 point. Now, notice it just applied 6 point to every single cell within there. I just want to do the bottom one. Now, if I click on the bottom one, I just zapped it, I got rid of it. Well, I'm going to change this back to, I think it was 1/4 inch by default, and I'm going to go click on all the rest of them. I want to apply just that 6 to the bottom one. That's it. I'll go ahead and hit OK. And now I've got a nice thick border there at the bottom. The rest of them are all back at that 1/4 point size, matching the rest of the table. So again, you select a cell, or you can select multiple cells. I can grab all of these here, get into the borders and shading. Got some defaults in there you can pick from, or you can go down to borders and shading, and you can set it up yourself. So try some of this out. Get in there, select a cell, get rid of some of the borders, just zap them completely. Try changing the thickness of some of your borders, change the colors. Again, it's preference. You decide what's best fitting for your table and for your content, and ultimately, what's going to make the readability of this table and its data go up for your users. With Microsoft Word tables, you may not always have time to do the formatting on the table on your own. It takes a lot of time getting in there, formatting cells, and getting it to look just right. So thankfully, Microsoft has provided several built-in table styles that you could just choose, and it would apply the style to your table for you. Now, you're not stuck with exactly what it gives you. You can kind of use it as a base and then build off of if you like to. But you can get a lot of the work done very quickly. Take a look. So open in front of you, I've got a new example file. This is number 13, table style.docx. All I'm going to do is click into the table, go up to my Design tab, one of the new tabs underneath Table Tools, and I've got Table Styles. Now if I go to this little down arrow in the corner, I'm going to shrink that up, just grab this corner so you can see my table in the background. We've got several different canned styles for tables. Now watch what happens when I run my mouse over the top of them. I get what's called live preview, and you can see what's happening to my table down below. Just a really quick, really efficient way to apply canned styles. And they've got a number of them. You can pick one that you like and just apply it to your table. I like blues. I like this one right here. It gives me these blue headers, gives me my category, my row headers here, nice bold and blue, and then I got alternating row colors in the rest of my records. Pretty slick. So I'm going to go ahead and find that one. I'll grab it, and right away I've applied the style to my table. Now again, you can always modify it. I don't really care too much about the black, so I'm going to change that to white text. I just like the way it pops off of that darker blue background. There we go. That looks pretty slick. But canned styles just built into Word. You click into your table, go up to Design, and you've got a whole slew of them there you can pick from. Try it out. Maybe you'll find something you like, maybe not, or maybe with a little bit of tweaking, you can get it to exactly what you want with minimal effort.